International Space Center for Exploration Systems, also known as PISCES. On behalf of our agency, we would like to say thank you so much for carving time out to be with us on this special day. We are honored to have several distinguished guests with us whom we'd like to recognize. Ross Wilson, representing U.S. Senator Mazie Hirono. Dwayne Mukai, representing Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. Kei Haupaole, representing Hawaii County Council Member Karen Ia. And joining us from Iolani, the Honorable George Ariyoshi. Representative Nicole Lowen. Representative Chris Lee. And Honolulu City Council Member Carol Fukunaga. Mahalo again to all of our guests for being here as we formally announce the two schools selected for the PISCES Hawaii High School Student Lunar Flight Experiment known as MoonRIDERS. This is a day we have been anxiously waiting for. It's a secret we have been keeping for months. It is a great honor to publicly announce for the very first time the two Hawaii high schools selected into our MoonRIDERS flight project. From the island of Oahu, located in Honolulu, we are proud to announce the selection of Iolani School, representing the independent school sector. And from the big island of Hawaii, located in Kailua Kona, we are proud to announce the selection of Kealakehe High School, representing the DOE schools within our state. Please join me in recognizing these selections on this historic journey to the surface of the moon. A special mahalo to Kealakehe Principal Wilfred Murakami, Justin Brown, and his staff for hosting this press conference in their state-of-the-art facilities, as well as to Iolani Head of School, Dr. Timothy Cottrell, for hosting there at the beautiful Sullivan Center. And now to the projects and key players. First, just to give you a quick overview about who we are. PISCES is a Hawaii State Aerospace Government Agency. We are based in Hilo, placed under DBET, the Department of Business and Economic Development and Tourism. We rang in the new year with a new Space Act agreement with NASA Kennedy Space Center. This SAA, this partnership, allows us to give Hawaii high school students the opportunity to literally shoot for the moon. To our knowledge, this has never been done before. They are going to conduct a NASA experiment on the surface of the moon. Iolani and Kealakehe could go down in history as the very first schools, the very first students to send an experiment to the surface of the moon. This opportunity is made possible by extraordinary and extensive collaborations between federal, state, public, and private entities. Here are the key players. PISCES, SwampWorks at NASA Kennedy Space Center, Google Lunar X Prize, the Hawaii State Department of Education, Kealakehe High, and Iolani. I would now like to introduce you to our speakers. Rob Kelso, Executive Director of PISCES. Coming to us live from Kennedy Space Center is Dr. Carlos Kaye of NASA SwampWorks, as well as Rachel Cox. Hawaii DOE Superintendent Catherine Matayoshi. Kealakehe High School Principal Wilfred Murakami. Iolani Head of School Dr. Timothy Cottrell. Ross Wilson representing Senator Mazie Hirono, and Dwayne Mukai representing Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. And our student MoonRIDERS, Josiah Clark and Amy Lowe of Kealakehe High. Veronica Shea and Charles McCrary of Iolani. Before we have our speakers come up, we would like to begin with a very special video message from the Honorable David Ige, Governor of our great state of Hawaii.
Aloha. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person to congratulate the students who participated in this program. This is a first, and I'm extremely proud of the Iolani and Kealakehe high school students who have been selected to send their science experiments to the surface of the moon. This project is a significant collaboration between a public and private school. It is also a significant part of our education to workforce pipeline, and it's an example of a successful collaboration between public, private, commercial, state, and federal sectors to make a project of this magnitude possible for our students. Again, congratulations to all. On behalf of the residents of the state of Hawaii, I want to let you know how proud we are of you. Aloha.
Mahalo to Governor Ige and his staff for sending their well wishes. Now, MoonRIDERS is the brainchild of our executive director, Rob Kelso. He began spearheading this project in 2013, purely driven by his passion to encourage our youth to literally shoot for the moon, just like he did. Rob is a former NASA Space Shuttle flight director. He served at NASA's Johnson Space Center for nearly 4 decades and has 25 missions under his belt. If you've ever seen the movie Apollo 13 starring Tom Hanks, you know Gene Kranz, the flight director who says failure is not an option? That's Rob. He worked at NASA's Space Mission Control Center. And that mantra, failure is not an option, I can tell you that he has passed that mantra down to our agency. And MoonRIDERS is just one of many products of that. Please give a warm welcome to Rob Kelso, PISCES Executive Director.
Mahalo, and let me again add my welcome and thanks to Principal Murakami and also Dr. Cottrell at Iolani for hosting such a historic event today, and also for the press that is attending this and covering this, which is a very historic event in the naming of the 2 high schools to participate in such a program. We at PISCES have been working extremely hard over the last 2 years to do things in the testing and the development of planetary surface systems and technologies that are on the cutting edge, but that are also not really done at other space centers or at research institutions, but however do take advantage of Hawaii's unique location in the mid-Pacific and the very unique lunar and Mars-like volcanic terrain that we find here in the Isles of Hawaii. As such, we have become one of the world's leading places for analog testing of technology in the world. The story of MoonRIDERS actually goes back into the period of 2010, when I was still with NASA and leading the lunar commercial services within the space agency. Several of us at NASA, along with members of the lunar science community, met with administrators and the lunar flight teams associated with the Google Lunar X Prize. Google Lunar X Prize is an inducement prize competition sponsored by the X Prize Foundation and funded by Google itself. The challenge calls for privately funded spaceflight teams to compete to successfully launch a robot spacecraft that can land on the moon, travel across its surface, and send images back the possibility of flying hosted payloads or ride-share payloads of experiments on these commercial lunar landers to the moon surface, and thereby restore and begin the exploration of the moon surface that had been dormant for 40 years. The MoonRIDERS program is perhaps the first example that follows that strategy. For 18 months, all of 2013 and half of 2014, PISCES, in collaboration with the NASA Kennedy Space Center and Dr. Kai there in Florida, began to establish the framework for such a flight program and the testing of critical dust removal technologies at NASA on the lunar surface. Notably, this flight project would involve the unique participation in Hawaii high schools within our state. an endeavor that may not have been done before. It should be noted that while student experiments have been on the Skylab space station, the Space Shuttle, and even today on the International Space Station, to our knowledge, there has never been a high school-based experiment to be located on the surface of the moon. And so this is quite a historic thing where these two Hawaii high schools would be involved in the engineering, design, and development and fabrication of flight hardware, the testing of this equipment within the PISCES lunar analog test sites, and building lunar mock-up landers that you see here and also at Iolani, as well as mission control operations, all under the mentorship of NASA. The project formally began actually at the beginning of the school year back in August with the goal to develop and then launch, fly, and land on the surface of the moon a Hawaii high school student-built lunar surface experiment in concert with technology from the NASA Kennedy Space Center as a hosted payload on one of the Google Lunar X Prize lander missions to be launched in late 2016. And as the governor pointed out, this is a very unique partnership that pulls together four demographics. From the academic and STEM side, the two high schools that are representing the state of Hawaii. From the state government level, my organization, PISCES. From the federal government, the NASA Kennedy Space Center. And then from the commercial and private spaceflight sector, of course, the Google Lunar X Prize. The critical education component here is to provide a unique flight opportunity involving Hawaii high school students in a way that excites them in STEM. Science, technology, engineering, and math. STEM scores are relatively low in our state, 46 out of 50, based upon the 8th grade testing that was done in 2013. And so what PISCES wanted to do was to help this state more than just planetary surface systems testing by engaging a unique project opportunity to excite high school students in a way that they could never imagine or in the past never participate in. Further, the plan would have the participation of them to serve as STEM ambassadors, where during and after the mission, these students would go into elementary and junior high and high schools to their peers, students talking to students about their lessons learned in an engineering perspective in this flight project, and why science and technology and engineering and math and careers and such, like in aerospace, are important and doable within the state of Hawaii. So such an innovative flight program accomplishes two specific goals. First, it does to achieve flight testing of critical technology hardware for spacecraft in concert with NASA Kennedy that then could be applied to other lander programs or robotic programs on Moon, Mars, and asteroids. And secondly, to provide an exemplary engineering project in STEM for Hawaii students to get their hands-on real-world experience in a flight engineering environment. Each of these groups, these four groups, have their own responsibilities to list those very quickly. PISCES provides the overall project integration, project management, and test operations at our lunar analog test site. NASA Kennedy Space Center is responsible for the design, test, and build of the dust shield technology. And then the two high schools are building full-scale mock-up test articles of two of the lunar landers that we're evaluating in a couple of weeks as options to fly to the surface of the moon, this experiment. Secondly, they're integrating that experiment onto those lander bases along with camera systems so we can do an engineering assessment of where's the best location to locate these on the flight lander as we come to launch in 2016. And perhaps most importantly, it is for these students to build actual flight hardware, developing and fabricating a very complex frame that integrates and holds the dust shield technology and its electronics for the launch, for the cruise and landing and surface operations on the surface of the moon. I was thinking the other night, just to close, if this student goes in for a college interview or has a job interview with some company, and they said, well, what did you do in high school? You know, were you in the Spanish club, in the honor society, you ran track? What did you do? Well, sir, I designed and fabricated a part of a flight experiment that today is sitting on the surface of the moon. What? You did what? What a great testimony to their hard work. And it's something that leverages something that is very important in this state in creating 21st century jobs and 21st century skills to move beyond just service industries and tourism, but to move into other high-tech sectors within our workforce, as commented by our great governor. Thank you for allowing me to come and share with you today.
I would like to now direct you to the TV screen to my right and introduce you to Dr. Carlos Calle, who is coming to us live from NASA SWAMPWORKS at NASA Kennedy Space Center. Dr. Calle is an award-winning senior research scientist at KSC and is the lead scientist who has developed the EDS technology that the students will be using for their experiment. Dr. Calle.
Thank you very much, Mariela. We are very grateful to PISCES and in particular to Rob Kelso for selecting us to participate in this wonderful opportunity. It allows us to fulfill one of an important component of NASA's mission, which is to inspire the next generation of explorers. And so we're very excited to be working with the students. To interact, our team is thrilled to be able to interact with the students on a weekly basis and sometimes even on a daily basis, exchanging information and talking about the designs of the payload as we progress in this exciting project. The field tests that we're planning for mid-March in Hawaii with the schools and the designs that the students and the teachers are developing for us will provide us with this unique chance of flying our technology and located on the moon and actually tested on the moon. This technology, we call it the electrodynamic dust shield, has been in development at KSC for several years, and it came out of the Apollo missions, the issue that we discovered during the Apollo missions of the dust getting on all kinds of surfaces and the difficulty of actually removing the dust from those surfaces, from spacesuits, from helmets, from joints, and from visors and camera lenses. Well, NASA's exploration program is targeting Mars, is targeting the moon and an asteroid, and all those places are dusty places. They have dusty environments, and so the problem continues, and we need to solve that problem. And so here at Kennedy Space Center, we came up with this technology, the EDS, as we call it, the electrodynamic dust shield, that uses electric fields to remove dust from surfaces. And so we are able to now move from the laboratory testing to, with the help of the students and the field tests, to be able to fly it on the moon and test it on the moon and certify it. And so if we are successful, then with the help of the students and PISCES, we'll be able to prove that the technology is ready for us to fly it on actual missions to the moon, to Mars, and to an asteroid, and to protect the systems that we need to protect and to solve that problem. That is one of the most important problems for NASA at the moment before we go back to those dusty places. So again, thank you so much for this opportunity, and we're very excited and continue to be very excited to be part of this program.
Mahalo, Dr. Kaye. Turning now to the heart and soul of MoonRIDERS, the students. We have Josiah Clark, Kealakehe High School's student project leader for MoonRIDERS, as well as Iolani student project leaders Veronica Shea and Charles McCrary. We will begin with Josiah.
Aloha, my name is Josiah Clark, and I'm honored to represent the Kealakehe Techs and public school students of Hawaii for the MoonRIDERS project. This project represents a culmination of a lifelong fascination in STEM and engineering nurtured for many years by thoughtful and innovative teachers and mentors. Through my experiences as a design, engineering, and fabrication leader on our robotics team, these last 4 years, my technical and project cycle skills have improved, preparing myself and my teammates for the audacious challenge that is MoonRIDERS. On behalf of my teammates, thank you all for coming out and supporting us with this ambitious program. As a senior, this project will exceed my tenure on the team. While I know I will follow its progress closely as a university student, the fulfillment of this project, culminating with the 2016 launch window, will not be part of my life. I, however, am very happy to leave this work in the capable and energetic hands of my teammates, as well as the future Tiki Techs I see in the crowd today. I hope, however, that I may use this project as a conduit to initiate 2 conversations, one around STEM education and the other on the role space exploration should play in society. I appreciate the diverse audience we have today, particularly the robotics students from our feeder schools. As we think about what kind of education these students need, we must examine the social framework created and enforced through our current approach to education. If you care about education and workforce development, you should care about space exploration. MoonRIDERS breaks this mold of classroom learning requiring high technical skill, unrelenting perseverance, and a little bit of crazy, requisite for all great things. Hands-on, problem-based education aligns with historical and cultural practices, and when married with technical skills, best prepares our future workforce and citizenry. Historically, radical economic transitions would only happen once in a person's life. Human transportation serves as an ideal model of how the acceleration of paradigm-shifting technology inflects the current structures. Walking dominated human transportation for a long time. Disruptive paradigms, domesticated animals to boats, to trains, to cars, to airplanes, to maglevs, each took shorter and shorter turns as the dominant mode. This analogy parallels to the computational predictions of Moore's law. The time between the introduction of technologies capable of influencing and taking control of the market, concomitantly causing economic transitions and workforce development, is shortening. If we do not match our education training to prepare students for the heightened shift rate, I fear that our community in particular will not have a workforce that can viably provide for our families. If you care about the environment, you should care about space exploration. The problems that will be solved in developing a productive, powered civilization in space will inform the path to developing a sustainable one on Earth. While we find new energy forms and approaches, current systems will be improved. This is particularly true for solar panels. The higher efficiency needed in space has already driven innovation in commercial PV and new research, such as MoonRIDERS, on environmental mitigation for these panels. Both serve well in the terrestrial markets. If you care about cool toys, like I do, you should care about space exploration. Human space exploration forces us to solve human problems in the most extreme conditions. Since 1976, over 1,500 documented NASA technologies have benefited the U.S. industry, improved the quality of life, and created jobs. Some of these contributions include gas and smoke detectors, infrared cameras, freeze-dried food, the artificial heart, temper foam, the rubber structure of your tires, and of course, the LEDs which so beautifully light our robot there in the back. If you care about humanitarian issues and world peace, you should care about space exploration. The great exploratory migration of our species led to conflicts over resources, which, while solved at times by war, often led to particular groups venturing to new lands to a manifest destiny. My Polynesian ancestry and my American heritage speak to this approach. Frontier expansion seems like an inevitable human trait. The appropriate future role for our festering urge to explore is space. A fundamental transition away from localized conflict against each other, away from the competition mindset so ingrained in our survival perspective, and towards one of collaboration in reaching new frontiers. Big projects excite and unify people. It is my belief that the Cold War stayed cold because the two sides developed a common enemy. A technical arms race emerged as a safe proxy to the mutually assured military destruction that many scholars thought would be inevitable. We didn't fight directly against each other. Rather, we fought against the frontier boundary. We fought against the lack of technical ability. By doing this, lives were saved and the paradigm shifted. Space exploration and Hawaii have been linked for a long time. From the very beginning, we have played an integral part in vital projects like Apollo astronaut training, planetary geosciences, deep space surveillance, the dome habitat, and now MoonRIDERS. We can see from the past those willing to voyage beyond our planet seek the resources of the Hawaiian Islands for their training and preparation. In the next 20 years, as the young students in school now begin to take hold of the workforce, the value of our islands for continued space exploration will increase. I hope that we bridge the gap to that workforce adroitly and with a keen sensitivity to developing local talent for these positions. I have grown up in Hawaii and had the opportunities, like most families, to go to the public school in my community. I am honored that this education has prepared me for a moment like this and look forward to leveraging this project to transform my community in a positive and measurable way. Thank you for your time and patience with me. We look forward to sharing our research and this project directly after the press conference. We hope all of you can stick around as we discuss the future of exploration systems and the role Hawaii can play in their development. Thank you.
Mahalo. Let's now turn to Iolani student project leaders, Veronica Shea and Charles McCrary. Aloha.
You're up.
Don't we start with the video?
Here.
Do you folks have the video to play?
Yes, we do. Would you like us to
Can we go with that first?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
First, we had the PISCES people. They were really integral in really bringing this project to Hawaii because Rob Kelso, the head of PISCES, believes that Hawaii is a great place for astronomy and a place to have launches. So he really brought together all the different components of NASA, PISCES, the private Google Lunar X companies and the two different schools, Iolani School and Kealakehe, bridging kind of the public-private school seed.
We started out with some designs that we got from PISCES, and we wanted to try and get a scale. We tried to make our own dimensions, and we made a lot of things simultaneously. Like we used the water jet to cut out the deck while the fuel tanks were being made. We bent the legs out of metal as quickly as we could.
I think that just the whole process of designing, building, and then assessing different problems is a really helpful tool that our students can take on into their lives and just like use, like, you know, throughout any career that they choose.
I think this helps to encourage people to go into STEM fields at our school, and it also raise awareness and make people more interested in space exploration.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Sorry. Okay. My name is Veronica Shea, and along with Keegan McCurry, we are the co-presidents of the Iolani MoonRIDERS Club. Growing up, I enjoyed watching the night sky with my parents. At that time, space seemed like a distant thing, leaving me with a sense of wonder at what lay beyond. Today, as a busy high school student, I afford much less time to watch the stars. But each time I look up at the night sky, I am once again filled with that same sense of curiosity about what makes the universe exist. My desire to explore the wonders of space and this thirst for knowledge has led me to MoonRIDERS. While the night sky seemed to be such a distant thing when I was younger, MoonRIDERS provides me with a rare opportunity to reach that space. MoonRIDERS is a groundbreaking initiative that gives high schoolers real-world engineering experience and the ability to impact something that will one day go to the surface of the moon. For me, MoonRIDERS is exciting because the opportunity to send something to space seems like a once-in-a-lifetime chance. But I believe that should not be the case. MoonRIDER needs to be the torchbearer that lights the way for future projects. MoonRIDERS is important because it is the first of its kind and should be the inspiration for future projects of a similar scope. As someone who is excited to tackle the problems of today's world, MoonRIDERS is a step towards engaging the younger generation to seek out the unknown and hope that they find a solution in the answer.
Having spent almost all my high school career in robotics, real-world challenges have been something which I greatly enjoy. The best part about real-world challenges is that no challenge is ever the same. MoonRIDERS has given me a unique insight into what it is like to work with major companies and corporations. Unlike robotics, in which we compete against other teams, in MoonRIDERS, we work together against the clock. Working with others who you can't see face-to-face can be a challenge at times, but working with companies such as NASA, PISCES, and Kealakehe has taught me many lessons about leadership and engineering, among others.
At its inception, the first step the Iolani MoonRIDERS Club took was to define our mission. We believe that MoonRIDERS should first and foremost be a learning opportunity for all of its members. Secondly, we believe that MoonRIDERS was an exciting initiative, and in order to obtain future projects and collaborations, we had to ensure that we worked at a high level and in a timely manner. Because MoonRIDERS is such an important collaboration, the final part of our mission was to make sure we got the community involved and kept interest high. On the public relations side, we work to educate the community about space and recruit more members. One of our major events is Space Night, where we teach third graders about our project and work with them on a simplistic dust experiment. Looking towards the future, we hope to ramp up our social media presence and host more community outreach events to keep public interest high.
We started out by building the Astrobotics Griffin lander with participation from both the students in the design and fabrication classes and the after-school club. Once the lander was under control, we brainstormed and prototyped multiple variations of the EDS frame and ultimately settled on putting the EDS on the footpad of the lander and using our waterjet and CNC milling machine to make our frame out of Delrin. Several students are also studying the image quality and light exposure on the moon. We're also in the process of constructing the Andy rover, which we'll be using to watch the EDS perform the experiment on the moon. MoonRIDERS has helped teach students skills in CAD and design and fabrication, using everything from basic hand tools to machines such as a CNC milling machine and waterjet, which I mentioned earlier. MoonRIDERS is important not only for the Iolani community, but for Hawaii as a whole. Hawaii is an ideal location for astronomy activity, and we must utilize these strengths to benefit our students. Hopefully projects like MoonRIDERS will attract more opportunities for Hawaii students.
MoonRIDERS is such an amazing experience because high schoolers are given the chance to work with professionals from NASA and to send something to the moon. All of our members are here to learn as much as possible, whether it's about space, design and fabrications, or public relations skills. The exposure to new people and new skills is one of the key experiences of MoonRIDERS. Ultimately, I hope MoonRIDERS will garner interest in Iolani School, Hawaii, and STEM education. Thank you.
When taking on this project, we really wanted the students engaged in every aspect, down to the logo. I'd like to call on Amy Lowe now, Kealakehe's graphics genius.
Aloha, my name is Amy Lowe. So through MoonRIDERS, we really wanted to come up with a logo that kind of encompassed the whole project. MoonRIDERS, so research investigating dust expulsion, dust removal and expulsion systems. I'm sorry. And so we had lots of design sessions in the end of last year with Iolani schools, designers, and we knew that we wanted to represent Hawaii, we wanted to represent MoonRIDERS, and we wanted to make sure that the logo that we created could represent what we do in any way. And so the MoonRIDERS logo that we created was this. So MoonRIDERS research investigating dust expulsion and removal systems. The moon is the moon. And one of the biggest things that we wanted to emphasize was that we're researching dust, and so we have the dots on the side, but they also represent the Hawaiian Islands. They're in the same shape, not shape, but the placement as the Hawaiian Islands, and so being able to have that in there, also representing the dust that we have here in Hawaii locally, and being able to put that into the logo was a big thing for us. Thank you.
Now, Iolani also came up with the logo. We'll call on Veronica and Charles again to tell us more about that. Veronica and Charles? Can you hear us? No.
She's muted. Tell her to unmute herself.
Oh, you're on mute if you can unmute yourself.
Hi all, I'm Kimberly Peterson. I am the head of Iolani's MoonRIDERS Public Relations, and I'll be presenting our logo. I'm not sure if you guys have an image of it, but there we go. Okay, awesome. Iolani Student Mission Control logo is fondly called the Silver Surfer due to the portrayal of a surfer riding the crescent of the moon. Our logo incorporates both Hawaii as well as lunar exploration in a clean and attractive manner. We hope that our logo represents the fun we have in this project, as well as the STEM opportunities that it provides for our community. We are proud to be able to work with PISCES, NASA, and Kealakehe on this momentous project. And as the head of PR, I encourage you to follow our progress at Twitter at iMoonRIDERS and on Instagram at Iolani_MoonRiders. Thank you.
Thank you. And by the way, the logo that Amy had presented will be for the project. This logo, Iolani's logo, will be for the Student Mission Control Center, and that is the same approach that NASA uses. So we can't say enough how proud we are of our students, our MoonRIDERS students. They've accomplished so much already. They started working in the fall of 2014, last year, and that pride extends out to our nation's capital. We have a message from Washington, D.C. from Congressman Tulsi Gabbard.
Congratulations and mahalo to the Pacific International Space Center for Exploration Systems for securing this tremendous opportunity for Hawaii's high school students. To the guests from across the state and around the country who were able to attend this press conference, aloha. Today, we recognize a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity created through years of dedication and collaboration. My great thanks go out to the PISCES team for your commitment as a world-class institution of research, education, and training. Throughout my time here in Washington, I've worked to increase the promotion of STEM-related initiatives, and I'm so proud that there in Hilo, PISCES has implemented a number of exemplary projects that motivate our youth to think far beyond present-day capabilities and working with them to create unparalleled avenues of progress, not only for Hawaii, but around the country. The MoonRIDERS Student Lunar Flight Experiment is one such opportunity. As technology becomes increasingly important in all sectors of both our work and our lives, we push our young students to engage, develop, and train with new technology. And it's amazing to see the kinds of solutions that they come up with. I'm excited for the future of the MoonRIDERS Lunar Project and extend my thanks to SwampWorks, STEM, Google Lunar X Prize, the state of Hawaii, and all the contributing partners who made this NASA partnership a reality for our Hawaii students. Mahalo.
And here on behalf of Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard is Dwayne Wakani.
Good morning. I have congratulatory messages from Congresswoman to both Kealakehe High School and Iolani School, but for this morning's presentation, I'm going to combine both into one. The United States Congress and U.S. Representative Tulsi Gabbard hereby honor and recognize Kealakehe High School and Iolani School upon being selected for the PISCES project in partnership with NASA. Congratulations to the students and faculty of Kealakehe High School and Iolani School on being selected to participate in a nationally significant project. You have a rare opportunity to collaborate on a project between the Pacific International Space Center for Exploration Systems, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and Global Lunar X Prize. This project will promote student hands-on experience, technological skills, and access to a culture of collaboration that is essential to learning in the 21st century. Established in 1997, Kealakehe High School serves students living in diverse communities throughout West Hawaii. As Hawaii's island's largest public high school, Kealakehe High places a strong emphasis on the core values of citizenship, which are building relationships, showing respect, and being responsible to oneself and the community. Founded in 1863 by King Kamehameha IV and Queen Emma, Iolani School serves more than 1,880 students. A cultural diverse student body, Iolani has consistently ranked amongst the best independent schools in the country for its academic, arts, and athletic programs. The data collected as a result of this project will be invaluable for future space exploration and the world. Best wishes on success of your project. Presented February 20th, 2015, Tulsi Gabbard, Member of Congress, Hawaii District 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. And here on behalf of Senator Mazie Hirono is Ross Wilson.
Good morning, everybody. I need to tell you that I sat in the back of the room and I'm absolutely in awe and inspired by the students, and I hope you are too. I have a message that I'll read from Senator Mazie K. Hirono. Aloha and welcome to all of you attending the MoonRIDERS PISCES Student Lunar Flight Experiment presentation. I regret that I am unable to join you on this special occasion. Congratulations to the robotics teams from Iolani School and Kealakehe High School on their selection to represent Hawaii in the PISCES Student Lunar Flight Experiment. Through this project, these students have the opportunity to make history, to become the first high schools to conduct an experiment on the lunar surface. And these are my words now. How cool is that? The PISCES Lunar Lander project enables students to develop valuable real-world science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM skills that lay the foundation for them to reach their future educational and professional goals and establish Hawaii as a leading technological innovation center. I would like to recognize the collaborative effort of PISCES, NASA's Kennedy Space Center, Google Lunar, XPRIZE, SwampWorks, and the Hawaii State Department of Education for their support and efforts to include Hawaii students in this program. The project is a reminder of the strength of public-private partnerships that by working together, we can aspire to greater accomplishments. Mahalo to PISCES for hosting this ambitious event, and good luck to our student participants. It is my hope that your undertaking inspires your peers to challenge themselves in their education so that they can shoot for the moon. My best wishes for your continued success. Mazie K. Hirono, United States Senator. Mahalo.
Thank you, Ross. We've also received messages from Senator Brian Schatz and Congressman Mark Takai. They are included in the program booklet that Amy had put together. So if you haven't gotten one already, be sure to pick one up before you leave. Kealakehe's participation in the MoonRIDERS project wouldn't have been made possible if it hadn't been for a prominent leader in Hawaii's education sector. The Hawaii State Board of Education recently announced that she received a 2014 rating of exceeds expectations in her overall performance grade. She happens to be from here on the Big Island, a Hilo native. Please give a warm welcome to Hawaii State Department of Education Superintendent, Catherine Matayoshi.
Thanks very much for having me here. Gotta echo what Ross said. It's a chicken skin moment when you think about what these students are doing. And just a little personal note, Dwayne, Ross, and I, when we were at Hilo High School a long time ago, Kealakehe wasn't even built. And I told the students that, and they looked at me like, oh my God. But think about what we're doing today. There was no way we didn't even have cell phones, much less Google Hangouts, much less thinking about all that is going into putting a project, a science experiment on the surface of the moon. It's beyond comprehension what our students are able to do. And you know, it's because of principals like Mr. Murakami and his wonderful teaching staff. This does not happen without teamwork at all levels and a commitment to take on a major project like this and to be a leader in STEM education. And it's true, we have a lot of work to do, but I think one of the things that this project exemplifies is that science is fascinating to students when they can do it. Not necessarily when they just read it in a book. They've got to see it and feel it, be able to work with it, and then it comes alive. And I think that's what this experiment does. And it's also because there there's been work all along through the robotics to prepare students for this kind of experience. So we're changing in the Department of Education. It's because of leaders like Will. It's because of his wonderful teachers. It's because of students like you. It's because of our partners in the community that we're able to do something like this and be on the map globally in the science fields. So with that, thank you so much and congratulations.
I'd like to now call on the head of Kealakehe High School, who leads the largest school on the Big Island of Hawaii and has one of the most successful robotics programs in the state. Please welcome Principal Wilfred Murakami.
Good morning and aloha. So happy to see so many of you here, and especially my thanks to the students who have come to visit us from other schools. You know, as leaders, between Superintendent Matayoshi and Rob and myself, we create the box. We create the parameters that will keep our children safe, watch out for their welfare, as well as provide them with these dynamic opportunities for them to participate. And so, you know, what really makes it move, the people that do the heavy lifting, are of course the teachers. And so, you know, my remarks today is that the product that you see here does not go without exemplary teachers. And so teachers like Justin go to meet the ethical and moral imperative. Teachers like it who go beyond the contract, who go beyond the day, the weekend, the nights, the mornings, to make sure that your children here in Hawaii get the experience that they need to be competitive in the global society. The teachers are the ones that really make the project go. Now for the students who are sitting here, I'm going to take a step here and say that for some of you, you had a difficult time, you know, understanding some of the terms and the examples, because I had a hard time following what they were saying. And the reason, you know, what I want to impart upon you is that what Rob was talking about, Mr. Kelso from PISCES is talking about, is a half a kilogram. This experiment is about the size of your cell phone. Of this size. And Mr. Brown shared with me a prototype that they had made. And he was sharing with me that Google, the Google partners, had bought a half a kilogram of space on this lunar lander that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so, you know, you could, with the amount that it's costing to put together this little dust shield that they're going to be putting up, you could buy maybe a house, maybe 2 houses in Iolani Estates if you wanted to. You know, so this is a big deal. So for the students who are here from the elementary, I want to impart upon you this thought. Josiah and Amy and the rest of the robo-riders, they're in it. They're living the dream. They're actually participating, and so they are developing the resource. I often say that teachers are the most important people in the school, but our students are the most important resource. And the reason is because it is the teachers who inspire and who teach and develop the resource. Yeah? So you folks are here to be inspired and to begin to think about your dreams, because living here in the middle of the Pacific, due to our access to the wide area, you folks are able to see, yeah, and see virtually. You know, through your mobile devices, you're able to see what other people are doing, and you say, well, you know, we live here in Hawaii, and we're in the middle of the state, and you know, a lot of the times, we don't get to experience many of these things. Yeah, like if you wanted to, you couldn't go and see the national capital unless you went out and raised, you know, hundreds of dollars. But you have examples, you have models who are here in our community in the form of our students, the robo-riders, both here and at Iolani School. And so I want you folks to take to heart, to begin to dream, continue dreaming, and think about what the possibilities are for you as you come up to the high school, as you go to whatever campuses that you're going to continue your high school education at. You know, be bold. Don't be afraid. Take that responsible risk. I often reference habits of mind. Yeah, practice that habits of mind to take a responsible risk, to increase your, your capabilities and skills, and be the next generation that, as Josiah said, if you're thinking about all of those different categories that he was talking about, he's talking about you folks making it come to fruition. So again, I want to thank all of the partners in this project. I really appreciate the collaboration that has been going on between Iolani School and Kennedy and Kealakehe High School. And I want to say congratulations to Iolani High School and the students there. You guys are doing a great job. We wish we had all of the toys that you guys had. But, I know Justin and I have conversations about that quite a lot. But, education is the key, and inspiration and the creativity of our kids will make stuff happen. So I want to thank the superintendent for this opportunity. It was because of her nomination that we are part of the project. I want to thank Rob and his group because they have continued to have faith in our kids and in our community. And I want to say, what a great day for education, all education here in the state of Hawaii today. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Principal Murakami. Let's turn back now to the Sullivan Center. I'd like to introduce the head of school of one of the best independent schools in the country. As an engineer himself with a broad background in math and science, he's a strong advocate and leader in STEM. Please welcome Iolani Head of School, Dr. Timothy Cottrell.
Well, thank you, everyone. And first off, I want to thank everyone at PISCES, NASA, the DOE. We wouldn't be able to do this without working together. And I remember when Rob came to campus and he posed the idea of this vision of doing a project together and bringing public and private schools together and doing something very ambitious. And I took it to the group of people at my school, the faculty members who could support this, and we all remembered Skylab and remembered the space shuttle and remembered all these great opportunities that were part of our education and hearing about students doing experiments in space. And we went back a little bit to, wow, but this sounds really difficult. There's going to be a lot here. And to a person, we kept going back to the fact that, but we get to go to the moon. Right? That this is a fantastic opportunity and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for our kids. Iolani chose to participate for a number of reasons in addition to that. First and foremost, it's for our kids. This is a great opportunity for the students. We have this beautiful facility, a 40,000 square foot building dedicated to innovation and leadership, project-based learning. This is exactly what we're always looking for. We want real, authentic problems that our kids can tackle. This fit the bill, and they've done a magnificent job on the project. The other reason we got on board was the vision Rob shared with us that we believe in supporting the effort to establish Hawaii as a center for engineering and other technologies associated with space exploration. We have the natural resources on the Big Island as a testing ground, and it's a great opportunity for the state. We need to educate scientists and engineers who can help make this happen and bring these opportunities to our home. Another reason was that we wanted to be involved in a public-private partnership like this, one that fosters STEM education, the development of STEM education curriculum around the state. This year, Iolani added a position called a Public-Private Initiatives Coordinator who works directly with folks at the DOE, and the mission is to develop and support STEM education. They work together to develop curricula and have professional development opportunities for teachers from the private side and from the public side. I mean, we just launched recently a new series called STEM Link. It's a 6-part series in which teachers from both communities will come together and work on the development of STEM education curricula that will support the needs of the Department of Education and also the private school community. This is part of our school's commitment to helping advance education for every student in our state. One of the things that I also appreciate about the vision of the people at PISCES is that they recognize that if we establish Hawaii as a center for these technologies, we have to work all the way down to the very beginnings of our education system. They see the entire picture, and their willingness to go to high schools and engage kids in something like this that's so authentic, so real, connect us with NASA, really speaks to the fact that they want this to work for our state, and we want to be a part of that. So Iolani's on board. We're very thankful to have a partnership with a school on the Big Island, work in partnership with the Department of Education, and bring an opportunity like this to students from throughout our state. Thank you very much.
So what is next for our MoonRIDERS? The project is about to go into warp speed in order to meet the deadline for a launch of next year. So for a quick overview of the timeline, I'd like to bring back Rob Kelso to give us.
Just a couple of minutes on what's in store ahead, because it's extremely exciting. In just a few short weeks, beginning March 16th, the students in this team from Iolani and the students from Kealakehe will converge for a full week of engineering tests at 9,000 feet on Mauna Kea at our PISCES test site, bringing their lander test articles from Honolulu and from Kona to combine it with hardware being developed of the dust shield at NASA Kennedy with camera systems that the students are putting together to evaluate from an engineering standpoint various locations that this equipment could fly on the lander in the near future. After that test, the students are going to be involved in intensive post-test analysis and data reduction, writing reports and presentations that they'll give to Google Lunar X Prize, to PISCES, to NASA, and the 2 Google Lunar X Prize teams before the end of the school year. Over this summer, then the design based on those engineering tests will be refined so that we can move into a flight production unit development beginning in the fall. We also hope that in early fall to do a launch services contract with an actual launch vehicle and an actual spacecraft that we are already having some discussions on to lock in a launch date and the carrier for this incredible experience. From that, we also believe next October we'll take the revised engineering and flight unit back to Mauna Kea for a flight verification test in October of next year. And from that, the equipment will be shipped to the spacecraft to be integrated in for integration test. And then from there, it will be shipped to the launch site to be integrated onto the rocket booster. And then hopefully in late 2016, we'll see fire and smoke and a launch and a cruise and a landing on Mahina onto the surface of the moon. How cool would that be? And I got to echo something here that has been touched upon by Dr. Cottrell and also Principal Murakami, and that's none of this would have happened at the educational level without Justin Brown and here at Kealakehe and also Gilson at Iolani. They are incredible technologists, incredible educators, incredible motivation people within the student community, and it is living the dream. Because I can't overemphasize that we are collectively doing something between these 2 high schools, PISCES and Kennedy, and the lander sector that none of us could do on our own. It was only through this public-private partnership that we're able to achieve these this real dream and vision of living the dream of putting something that high school students built onto the surface of the moon. So we have an exciting next 18 months. To go. We're just now scratching the surface, and so we're so excited to be able to share that dream with you. So thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you to all of our speakers. That concludes our speaker portion of the press conference. We would like to now open it up for Q&A. So if anyone from the media or the community, any of our guests, whether you're here at Kealakehe or at Iolani, if you have any questions for any of the speakers, feel free to grab or actually we have a mic right there, a student who can come up to you and take your question. Anyone? Don't be shy. There we go. get the confirmation of funding from Google on this?
We have the funding all set up to build the flight units. We're still working on the funding and authorization for the flight. Google has actually asked us as an unsolicited proposal to give them a proposal on carrying this flight student experiment on as a part of their half-kilogram allotment. That was sent to them last fall, the Sunday evaluation, and so hopefully we'll hear something this spring.
We have a question on our side as to what is the cost of the project.
What is the cost of the project? It was the question.
It's a very interesting question because this is a very interesting business model that we put together. There is no money exchanging hands in this. Iolani committed their own school funds to fund the students and faculty for labor, for travel, for equipment. Principal Murakami and the Department of Education are funding their own piece. Kealakehe PISCES is funding their own piece. NASA Kennedy is funding the development and build of the hardware through internal research and technology money. So all of that money is within their own sectors. No money ships between partners. Only hardware, only deliverables. And that's part of the key piece of this is that what the students are building is key into a production schedule that Kennedy has. What Kennedy is doing plays into the production that the schools are doing. And we have to meet a launch schedule. The flight cost for a 1 kilogram to the surface of the moon is $1.2 million. We're a half kilogram, so that's $600,000. It's roughly $100,000 to do launch site integration, EMI testing, loads, vibration analysis, modal loading, and then roughly $500,000 is the cost to go to the surface of the moon for launch, cruise, and landing. So it's not an insignificant cost. It's not an insignificant effort. This is a big deal for us all. But thanks for the question.
Will there be an exact launch date?
There's not been an exact launch date established. The end of the prize terminates at the end of 2016. And several of the Google Lunar X Prize teams are actually setting up for launches in the last quarter, end of the third quarter or last quarter of 2016. So right now we're thinking the launch would be sometime in the November, December timeframe of 2016.
How many teams are going to, and how many high schools are involved?
We're about 30 teams that initially started back in 2010, and they were worldwide. There are about 18 teams that are still in the competition. Two of the teams that we are talking to are there are teams here in the United States, and I don't know of other. There may be other high schools involved in some aspects with some of the teams, but I don't know that. I'm not saying that there are, but you know, we certainly are and involved in looking at 2 potential lander and flight teams for the trip to the moon.
Hi. Are there any plans to continue programs like this in the Hawaiian Islands?
Did I write these out and give these to you? These are great questions. So actually, in discussions when we put this together, I had some great discussions with Kamehameha, Dr. Rod Chapin. And one of the questions he asked was, how do we not make this a one-and-done thing? How do we do this other times so other schools and other opportunities are presented? And I thought a lot about that. And so one of the things that I've already started all the way back in Japan University working together collaboratively on an engineering project. It could be a small telescope that is tested on Mauna Kea and then flown by Japan, or it could be a small COTS type of rover, but built collaboratively in partnership between a Hawaii university and a Japanese university to fly on the Japanese lunar lander that'll go to the surface of the moon in 2019 or 2020. And not to stop there, I've begun discussions with Rice University and China of how we can tie high schools or universities between China and the United States together in doing the same thing on Chandra 5, which is the Japanese lunar lander program that will send a lunar sample return back to Earth in the 2018 time period. So how do we take the MoonRIDERS model and adapt that to work with Japan, which is a very close collaborative neighbor, as well as China, all within the Pacific Rim.
Any other questions?
Right.
Aloha.
Aloha.
This is for Josiah. Probably Amy as well. After 2016, you guys make it to the moon. Where are you going after that? Where's this right taking you?
So, well, the whole project serves for me as a wonderful opportunity to really be able to expand my horizons, what colleges I can go to, what I can do in college, and how I can offer my services back to the Hawaii community. I think for me, after 2016, even though I intend to watch the launch, even though I won't actually be like actively a high schooler involved in the project after this year, I still intend to go and watch it. But after that, I intend to be the person who is able to say, I was a part of that thing that went to the moon. And from there, I'd like to go to an amazing university like Stanford, nice. And from there, I'd like to launch into really exploring the possibilities of what we can do our island in space exploration and really reforming our educational system so that it can support this kind of project-based learning and just do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Amy?
For me, with MoonRIDERS, I've done a lot of different kinds of things, from the logo to actually like fabricating our like prototype EDS and things like that. And so being able to learn skills that I can use in the future has been really important with MoonRIDERS. And even though, like Josiah said, we're both seniors, and so being able to say that we were part of it and pass on what we knew this year to the students that will be continuing MoonRIDERS. Past 2016, even with like Japan projects that Rob Kelso is talking about, and providing opportunities for students in Hawaii for the future.
Governor Ariyoshi would like to make a statement, and I'm going to hand the microphone to him here.
Okay, great, thank you.
I wanted to express my appreciation to the students who are involved in the program. And I think that what you do is very, very important. And I got very concerned about Hawaii's future. And that future must be the economic future also. It must be an inclusion of the technology. And this is one of the really important technologies. I'm telling people, it's not my future. I'm going to be 89 years old, but it's your future. And what you are doing is going to be very important in making it possible for Hawaii to be involved in this technology, this aerospace area. You know, way back then, technology firms get started in Hawaii, and we've lost them because they didn't really belong here. But I want you to know that what you're working on really belongs here in Hawaii. Nobody's going to take it away from us, because we have some things that are very unique to Hawaii. We have the talking sands on Kauai. We have the telescopes on Hawaii. We have the soil conditions there on the Big Island, where the astronauts train there, because it resembles outer space more than any other place. And then we have the university, very much involved. PISCES, Jim Christopher, PISCES, very much involved in trying to further the programs, and all the programs to make it possible. What is also very important is the point that we have a NASA and the private sector who feel very strongly about Hawaii's involvement. And so I feel, you know, I come here not because I'm a technician in the field, but because I believe very strongly that this aerospace program is our future. If you have it, if you lose it, we're going to lose a good portion of our economic future. And so I'm very grateful to you students who are taking part in the program, because it's this kind of participation that make it possible for us to keep our skills part in the aerospace program. I congratulate you. I extend you my gratitude for your participation. And I congratulate you, Iolani, also for the efforts that are being made here to make it possible for the students' participation. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Put it in the back.
Morning. Looking at this project and the furtherment of it, and seeing the kids here from the intermediate schools, and looking at development of the future of this, I've seen in the past that robotics is not something where there are credits that students can earn for this type of thing. And I think it'd be prudent to look at that from the standpoint of developing ACCN numbers and further directing the CTE program to be able to go through robotics so that kids can actually go developmentally from one stage to the next, so that things like this can actually go further. My father was an aerospace engineer. He worked with NASA. He did the Apollo flights, the Gemini flights. I've seen space exploration from being a kid. But the kids here in Hawaii or anywhere in the nation aren't in a situation that I can see, whereas robotics itself and the things that have come from robotics from this school and from the kids here who are, I commend, to be able to go forward and have a curriculum like culinary or auto, but this is cutting edge, and this is something that I think that should be developed from the standpoint of ACCN members in a continued curriculum where they can go on and expand from there and further develop this for all of Hawaii, not just this school.
Any other questions? Principal Murakami would like to make a comment.
I guess for my friends in the real estate business, they need to restate. You can't buy a home for $600,000 in Hawaii.
Okay, well, it's 10:30, and that wraps up our press conference. Even though our press conference has ended, a lot of our speakers will still be available for one-on-one either interviews or questions, or if you would just like to talk story with the students or the teachers, you are more than welcome to. Over at Iolani, for those who are interested in seeing the mock lunar lander that the students built, the team over there is very happy to take you down to the lab and show it to you. It's quite impressive. For those here at Kealakehe, the students are going to have a special presentation, and they will be going through the science in detail of their project. So I do invite you to stay and watch that. It's very, very impressive. And those who are at Iolani who are interested in watching Kealakehe's presentation, the Sullivan Center will continue live streaming this for you. So on behalf of PISCES and everyone here, we would like to say thank you so much for coming. To our MoonRIDER students, we are already so proud of you, and we just cannot wait until we see your experiment launch to space and head towards the moon. It will truly be historic and epic. Aloha, everyone. By the way, there's a great spread of food in the back, so feel free to dig in.
Can I have all Kealakehe robotics students please come to the front? All Kealakehe robotics students. Thank you.
Hi. Sorry, I couldn't be up front.
Nice to have you. Thanks for the invite. And so I just wanted to double check. What time do you think you guys will bring the stuff on Monday?
I'd have to ask Justin because I'm not involved in that.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
what time do you want him there?
It would be great to get them, because we start about 8:15. It'd be great to have everything like parked in my room already by like 8.
Okay.
Do you think that's possible?
Yeah.
That'd be
I'll
great.
ask him.
Yeah, that'd be totally great.
Fine. We'll work it out.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Mike.
Sure.
And,
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. See you guys.
I know exactly.
Just turn it on. Yeah, live. Yeah, it's so good. You can just turn it on. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so good. It's so fast. And you're
Oh, yeah. Oh, you need to have all Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I know, yeah. Yes. I know rice. Stand for rice. Yeah. Yeah, that's why I was. There's so many. So he's blessed, as he knows. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Scholarships. My case is now starting to grow. So it is nice. It is really nice. We've always said we have 5 years. We said we're going to pay so much. And the rest of it is scholarships. It's just impossible to pay. But one thing I like I'm a big co-op education. That's
I'm going to take mine.
go to school semester. So I work in NASA.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, we'll get on next week.
We'll see you in this.
Yeah. So I got a job. So I'm going to pick you up.
Okay.
Which ones
We need to ask them for the computer they used last night. Dale will know which one. It's a Dell. Right? We want to use the exact same one and pass out the clicker.
Innovative space launch. You may want to go in engineering and
Oh, Iolani bailed out? Okay.
Well, you can also take field study credit, or like when I was co-oping, junior college, you take some math, history, also took some directed study. And but they have it dialed in where they say, you're the co-op, we know what you think this semester, this semester, this semester. It's not guesswork, it's laid out. And you're working here and here and here and here. I'm a huge and the other benefit of that is that it allows the student to test different markets, different areas. Yeah, and see, I thought it was this, it's not what I thought it was. You know, so. Yeah, but a lot of them have different, like the oil industry. I'm putting one together here to do it. I would say that's that I came from a small market, 1,200 kids. It's not. Oh, yeah. No, it's not. I just have a bachelor's in physics, and I have. Then I went and did it. Yeah, I did. No. I mean, and I was in flight control, which is, you can't get that out of school. We've been kind of looking at choose, but recognizing we're capped. One went to a 4-year school, first semester, now to go to college, to save some money for lockout for courses that he wants to help. Yeah, but check in the co-op thing. I think that is huge. You're welcome. It's nice. I'll bet. Yeah, on the old one. Yeah, that was like your roller coaster. Yes, Nice to meet you. I know. Hey, Don. Hey, Rob. Hold on there. I wanted to this one with cards, but I wanted to. I know you're coming over. End of March.
Thank you guys so much. We're going to be starting the student presentation in about 3 minutes. So if y'all could start making your way to the seats in the front, we'll be starting the student presentation in about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Take care.
I don't know who's speaking yet. So 1 through 4 for Mike, and then wireless. I don't know who's on them, but I know Brown has one of them. He always likes running around with wireless. Like, power. Huh? Oh. Oh. You can tell colors have big feet. Oh, you got big feet. That's cute. He said no. Goya. Alright, buddy? Y'all kick now. Y'all kick. Something. Or both. Mr. Brown has one, and another one was on the stand.
Okay, table will start, then you can do
Everybody else failed out.
Hey guys, we're going to be starting our presentation momentarily, so if you can all please sit down the blue chairs or in that relative area, that'd be very nice. So all you guys in the back, just kind of hop on down and take a seat.
Funky looking gold thing.
First of all, I'd like to give aloha and thank you to Mr. Hauk and Mr. Ibarra for their hard work and dedication to the team. They've been here almost every day doing lots of work with us, staying when we're here at 3 o'clock in the morning, supporting us throughout the whole year, and especially with the MoonRIDERS and First Robotics season right now. Chris?
Thank you, everybody. It's been a wonderful time working with the students and creating this program. I expect a lot more from them and their support when they graduate. So they're not done yet. So we expect great things from them. Thank you very much. Sorry I'm a little sick every night, 3 a.m. Getting old, yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Ibarra, the auto shop, metals, fabricating guy. I just want to thank everybody for coming and spending this special day with us and being a part of our program. Thank you.
Okay. So, again, hello, my name is Benjamin Robbins. I'm a senior here at Kealakehe High School. And we just wanted to take a minute to tell you about some of the things we're doing with MoonRIDERS. The research we've done, different things we've just learned about during the whole process. So, to start off, we as human beings need a goal. We need an enemy to oppose, a roadblock, an obstacle challenging our advancement. The craving for opposition empowers us with the drive to succeed and serves in the rallying of individuals, communities, nations to accomplish incredible objectives. However, instead of only unifying in times of war or great hardship, mankind needs a common enemy, needs a goal to strive towards, to conquer. This goal is the exploration of outer space and the eventual colonization of the moon, as well as the rest of the universe. Towards this end, the beautiful and climatically diverse Big Island of Hawaii is the optimal location for future private endeavors into space. One of the many appealing aspects of the Big Island for space-related adventures is the lunar-like surface of volcano Mauna Kea. Having already been a test bed for Apollo 13 and Apollo 17 astronaut trainings, Mauna Kea's slopes closely emulate that of the moon's surface, making it an excellent testing ground. Provides several ideal conditions for a launch base. The clear sky is experienced the majority of the year, for instance. The minuscule average of 6 centimeters of rain per year, and the already pre-existing runway all accumulate to create a picture-perfect environment for horizontally launched RLVs, which are reusably launched vehicles. Now, another really important, in fact, one of the more important aspects of Hawaii as a launch base is Hawaii's ability to take advantage of the Earth's own rotational velocity. Being so close to the equator gives us the ability to take advantage of the maximum spin the Earth gives us to allow us to gain orbital speed. Normally, when you're launching from a place like Cape Canaveral in Florida, you launch and then have to redirect your rocket to get as close to the equator as you can. This uses a lot of fuel, which means lots more money to get there. Launching from Kona would eliminate this, that technique is called the dogleg effect. It would eliminate this, severely reducing costs. Yeah. Then, as George Meade said, when he spearheaded an earlier project to try to start a spaceport here, said Hawaii would be a one-stop shopping center, offering both a one-stop shopping center. You can either launch into equatorial orbit around the equator, or polar orbit. If properly tapped, this picturesque location could serve as a major first step for humanity. First ventures into the stars.
Hey guys, so I'm Chris. I'm a senior on this year's team, and I'm leading for our CARC team, which is Team America Rocketry Challenge. So, from that, I hope you can infer that today we're talking about how we're going to be sending submarines to the moon. I'm joking. Please don't listen. Right. So, today I want to talk about rockets and why we should expand and colonize on the moon. So at first, the moon, you're just like, why do we want to go there? Well, for a civilization that plans to colonize and to explore the farther outer reaches of space, the moon's a really good starting point. So aside from the obvious fact that it's the closest object to us, the moon is also a great launching site. So our good friend here, Saturn V, right? It weighed 3,000 tons, which is the equivalent of 400 elephants, and it required 34 million newtons of force at an initial launch just to get just out of there. I mean, the miles per gallon wasn't even miles. It got 7 inches per gallon of fuel. And that's a mixture of hydrogen fuel and oxygen fuel, so it's just really not an efficient method, right? But on the moon, there's 1/6 the gravity than here on Earth, and there's 1/1000 of the atmosphere. So that reduces the amount of escape velocity you need to just get off the planet. So you can imagine that if we were to launch something similar to Saturn V off the moon, like tons of fuel would be saved, because 89% of this rocket's mass is just purely for the fuel. Like the empty mass is just marginally smaller. So the moon is also becoming a cheaper endeavor. With the advent of recent technology making it more effective while cheaper, getting to the moon is not so hard a task anymore as it was previously. It's still a very big challenge. I'm not saying getting to the moon is simple. It's just like, whee! No, it's still quite a difficult thing to do. But it's not as expensive as it used to be. We're getting there, and we have the technology to do it now. The moon also has a bunch of resources. So when you're looking at this, I know you're thinking like, oh, it's a rainbow without the red. What it actually is a neutron spectrometer, which shows hydrogen at the polar caps of the moon. So what this says is that, or what's showing is, there's this orbiter called the LRO, which is Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. It went around the moon and took this spectrometer of the moon and showed that it had hydrogen ice caps at the poles. So we know that there's resources there. Also, there's the LCROSS, which is the Lunar Crater Observation and Sensing Satellite. I know, a big one, right? So this thing was like, hey, the moon's a really cool place. I'm just going to run into it. Boom! Huge plume of dust. And in that dust, it was like, oh, what? There's hydrogen and oxygen there. So much abundance of resources, which I will tell you about a few minutes later. So, we know the moon's a super cool place. We want to go there. It's great, right? It has all these resources. We can colonize on it. We can make it our home. But we run into the problem of actually getting to the moon. So as I said earlier, Saturn V, which is giganto rocket, first one to take us to the moon. That's kind of an ineffective strategy if you think about it. We're using 89% of our mass just to get there, and then there's just not much else we can do with it. So let me pose this picture to you. If you decided, out of your very rational mind, to take a road trip with you and your family, in your sedan or something, and go from California to New York, and then back, that entire thing 41 times, that's about the same distance as going to the moon. Would it make more sense to get this huge fuel tank, like the size of this building fuel tank, like so much fuel, Obama would cry. Would you rather take that fuel tank and just drive to New York, or be like, hey, no, hear me out. Drop the fuel tank, we're just going to go to the gas station. So the gas station should be the obvious answer, right? Why not apply that same logic when going to the moon? So, if we were to have a refueling station, so to say, right? I'm not sure about the specs yet. I'm not sure if anyone is, but let's just say we have a refueling station on the moon. We could cut down our mass to 73% of Apollo's mass initially because of the fuel we'd save. Rather than having to take everything up there, there's already fuel on the moon, and so we have to take less off of Earth. If we were to have another refueling station at L1, which is the range point, it's a balancing point of gravity between Earth and the moon, we could cut down Apollo's mass to 34%. If we were to have one more at LEO, which is low Earth orbit, same thing that satellites go around, we could cut down our mass to 12%. So it's just marginally cheaper and less fuel required to get to the moon. We save mass, we save money, and we can allocate that resource elsewhere. One of the best parts is the fact that this fuel, we're not just setting it up from Earth to those refueling stations again. As I talked about earlier, the moon's a better place to launch off of. So we can use that hydrogen and oxygen from the LCROSS ramming in, right? Remember that those resources are there. We can use those resources to refuel those refueling stations. And in the end, we're just maximizing our efficiency. We're making this a lot cheaper. So, why do we care now? There's this idea that we need to maximize our efficiency and make it the most profitable, not profitable, but just use the least amount of resources we can. This idea kind of revolves around ISRU, which is in situ resource utilization. It's the same thing Polynesians did. Rather than bringing everything you want to the moon, you take what's the bare minimums that you need and use the local resources available. And all kind of comes back to Hawaii, right? Hawaii is this really great location to do this. We have the resources on Mauna Kea. We have some of the dust we can test on, and it all comes back to our community and how we can interconnect this. So talking about more ISRU and how we can use on the moon, and hand it over to Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy. And so with ISRU, we have the of dust on the moon, which we can use. It's there, we get to the moon, there's lots of dust all over the place, and what can we do with it? So one of the biggest ideas right now is 3D printing. 3D printing this lunar regolith, which is basically silicon and lots of other minerals that we can use to 3D print. So initially, right now, how we manufacturing things is subtractive manufacturing, drilling holes, cutting things out of a giant piece of metal or a big block of wood, and we take things out. It's subtractive manufacturing. But with 3D printing, it's a type of manufacturing called additive manufacturing. And so what it is it takes what you need and it prints it layer by layer by layer. And so instead of taking things out, it puts things on top to make an actual object. So one of the easiest ways right now that we're 3D printing is kind of like a really small hot glue gun. So it will melt a filament and it will melt it layer by layer by layer and create an object that you can hold. So the first 3D printer on the moon was called Made in Space, and it took a 3D printer to the moon and built objects, little toys and small plastic objects in space. But for actual colonization, the ESA, the European Space Agency, has come up with a plan to build a lunar base on the moon using 3D printing. And so the moon's surface, it doesn't have an atmosphere, and so we need to make sure that the astronauts there can live kind of in little homes. And so this is kind of the little home that they designed, and using kind of this bird bone structure, which allows us to kind of make lightweight structures, because bird bones are really efficient and strong at the same time. And so they would build a rover, which would take the actual lunar regolith, and kind of how we make cement. It will melt it and kind of make a mixture and print it layer by layer by layer to make this actual structure over an inflatable kind of tube thing that will house the actual astronauts. And so to talk about more of the dust, we have Courtney here. Hi, I'm Courtney Nelson.
No. No, she's not. Is she? Okay.
Hello. Oh, hi, I'm Courtney Nelson, and I'm passionate about dust. So far we've established the importance of the lunar surface as a launch pad for further space travel, rocket fuel, and ISRU materials. Now you may be asking, what is lunar dust?
Oh.
What is it composed of? How does it relate to Earth regolith, and how is it unique? Let's begin with the chemical composition. The lunar dust The lunar regolith is dust and rock shards that jacket the underlying solid rock. Here you can see the chemical composition of the lunar dust compared to that of the soil on Earth. So one of the main differences is that on Earth, the soil is organic. That means it contains carbon. On the moon, it does not contain carbon, which makes very large differences when it comes to inhabitants of life. Here you can see Apollo astronauts training for the Apollo 14 mission and a rover on the moon. Right here is on the Big Island of Hawaii, and here is on the moon. So you can see that geologically they're very similar, and visually they're very similar. So they discovered that greater than 70% of lunar dust is comprised by cryoxene, plyo-glaze, and impact glass-rich particles. The ratio of composition of the particles depends on the type of bedrock, the size of the particle, the age of the particle, maturity of the regolith. The older the particle and the smaller it is, the larger portion of impact gas is a part of the composition. This is confirmed by a recent study stating that roughly 80% of submicron dust fractions consist of glass. So we've established that lunar dust is different, but how is it different? How are we going to react with it? How does it change what we're doing on the moon compared to what we're practicing on the Earth? So, for one, it's come with a lot of mysteries. The first is the lunar horizon glow. So, the lunar regolith has been a cause for concern since before landing on the moon. Its exotic properties mystifying scientists and engineers and astronauts since 1966. The optical properties of lunar dust continued to perplex the space community in 1966 when a horizon glow rising 62 miles above the lunar surface was recorded by robotic cameras. A glow of this kind is astonishing because of the moon's lack of atmosphere to scatter the rays of light. So look at the horizon we have every night and the scattering of the light. That's due to our atmosphere. Because the moon only has 1/1000th of the atmosphere, it was not expected for there to be the same kind of scattering of light. The current theory of this phenomenon suggests that the light is being scattered through dust particles that have fountained into the sky from the lunar surface. So right here, these are simulations of the optical scattering sources expected to be observed above the lunar sunrise horizon, as viewed by LADI, the star tracker cameras, from within the shadow of the moon. So on the top, you can see right up there, that's the lunar horizon glow. The next one is the coronal and zodiacal light, and the third one is sodium emissions. So when you combine the intensities of these three lights, you can see that the sodium emissions are negligible, while the coronal and zodiacal light and the lunar horizon glow combine to make most of the horizon that the Apollo astronauts are seeing. So wow, lunar dust is pretty interesting. It's not what I was expecting when I started researching, and I've really come to enjoy it. So this is my favorite thing about lunar dust is during the day, the regolith is pelted with radiation from the sun, ionizing the particles, and at night, the dust is exposed to a harsh plasma winds and gains electrons. As the moon rotates, the sun sweeps across the lunar surface and causes large areas of dust to change their charge, causing a large and vast electric field. This is what you're seeing with the lunar horizon glow, is you have these particles, and they're changing their charge, and they're creating this vast electric field, and this dust is being thrown up and plumed over and hitting the electric field and being thrown up again. So I thought this was really crazy because it explains so much about what these Apollo astronauts were experiencing and what was so mystifying. So now let's look more at the negative side of the moon. So the lunar surface is encompassed by a solar wind, a plasma with a fluctuating speed primarily composed of protons and electrons. Due to the quicker speed of the thermal electrons than the protons, the surface collects a negative charge. However, the solar and ultraviolet and soft X-rays radiating on the light side of the moon emits a high-energy photon packet that ejects electrons from the surface, creating a positive net charge on the light side. So, this is pretty fascinating. You have these particles, and they're jumping in the air, and they're super cool, and they're charged, and they're getting everywhere. But with every fascinating and awesome and beautiful thing, there comes many problems. So, one of these major problems is that it sticks to the spacesuit fabric. It not only sticks to the spacesuit fabric, it sticks to everything. It jams seals, it gets in mechanics, it gets on solar panels. there's no getting away from this stuff. It'll scratch the visor of the spacesuit, and there's too many problems. There's just too many problems. So right here, you can see a dust particle, and so this is it's very sharp like glass. So what was happening was it was getting attached to the spacesuits because of the static charge, and it was making abrasive like holes and scratching it up, and it was no good. It was formed by micrometeorites hitting the surface, and the impact was causing it to melt and then shatter. So it was, just imagine you drop your vase in your kitchen and you have all this glass, and then imagine that they decide to just stick to you. How do you get that off? I don't know. You try to push it off and it'll scratch down your arms. It'll make things way worse. Ay, ay, ay. So here's what a spacesuit looks like. It's covered in this dark dust right here, and you can see how it's sticking and getting caught up in the spacesuit. And right here, this was really crazy. I was really surprised. The lunar dust chafed below the top of a boot of Apollo 12 suit to the point of breaking through the thermal control layer, sections of the micrometeorite protection layer, and was beginning to wear into the mylar insulation. And this not only happened once, it also happened to an Apollo 17 astronaut, Harrison Schmitt. So this is a huge problem and something that really needs to be dealt with, because they can't go out and get new spacesuits. It's not something that's just there. They don't have a Walmart. When I get tired of a shirt, I can go get a new one. But, like, they can't do that. They don't have a Costco. So we need a solution, because only 8 hours in their spacesuits can cause extreme amounts of wear equivalent to 100 hours of wear on the Earth. Which is nuts. It's not lasting long enough if we want to inhabit the moon. So a solution to this problem is imperative.
Hello, my name is Caleb Bishop. So Courtney just talked a lot about the problems of lunar dust, and I'm going to talk about a potential solution to the dust. This is known as the electrodynamic dust shield, and it will be often abbreviated as the EDS. So I'm going to first briefly talk about the history behind this device before going into how it actually works. In 1967, a NASA employee wrote a paper proposing possible ways to get rid of the dust, and this device was described in not very much detail. It was described in that paper. In the 1970s, a professor at the University of Tokyo, Shinichi Masuda, researched a very similar technology. He was looking at pollution filters. This is similar because dust particles, there are different types of dust particles, and there's different parts of pollution particles, and they kind of can be dealt with in similar ways. He wasn't interested in space applications and shifted his focus towards other things. But then in 2003, Dr. Carlos Calle, who was here with us in the first portion of the day, he teamed up, he's the founder of the Electrostatics and Surface Physics Laboratory at Kennedy Space Center. And he and his team in 2003 teamed up with University of Arkansas at Little Rock and won a NASA research announcement to use Masuda's device, which was known as the electric curtain, to use his research and to continue developing it for uses on solar panels on rovers on Mars to rent, because once the dust gets on all the solar panels, it's covering up the solar panel and you're not getting as much energy from it. After that 4-year grant ended, they shifted gears a little bit towards applications on the moon, which is what they're still doing now with us. Okay, so how does it work? Fundamentally, the EDS is like, it's a little circle. It's about this big. They were talking about it this morning. And it just makes forces outward. It pushes the particles outward. So as Courtney was saying, like, you can't just brush it off with your arm because it's going to like dig into your suit. Or you're rubbing it in, not really getting it off. The EDS isn't going to be pushing it like, it's going to be pushing it off of your suit, which will help and make it a lot easier. So this is a diagram of an EDS. It's just 3 electrodes in a spiral like this. And the electrodes are given different
voltages, as you can see here. So on the bottom, I have a diagram of a cross-section of the EDS. So the blue represents one of the electrodes, the green is another, and the red is the final. So they loop around like that. So at any time, only one of the electrodes is given a positive voltage, and the other two are negative. So between the electrodes, there are electric fields that will interact with the particles. As you can see here, the blue one is positive, and the other two are negative, and then it just abruptly switches to the green one being positive, and the other two being negative. And I'll talk about why it uses such sharp shifts later. So there are three types of particles that the EDS needs to be effective at removing. There are charged particles, just any positive or negative particle. There are polar particles, particles with dipoles, a positive and negative side. And there are uncharged nonpolar particles, or neutral nonpolar particles, that have an equally distributed number of positive and negative surface charges. So now I'm going to talk about how we deal with each of those, or how the EDS deals with each of those. For the charged particles, it's the most simple. An electric field, when a charged particle comes into contact with an electric field, it just creates a force. It's called the Lorentz force. And it will be opposite force for a negatively charged particle. So as you can see here, the positive to the negative makes an electric field going this way, and the positive to the negative going the other way also makes it going that way. So the positive and negative charges will kind of separate, and it will experience a force in the same direction once they've separated. For the polar particles, when a polar particle is exposed to a uniform electric field, the different poles of the particle, here and here, experience equal but opposite forces. So what this causes is the particle to rotate and orient with the electric field, but it's not actually going to push it anywhere. The particle's just going to rotate in the electric field. But when the electric field is non-uniform, like the EDS's electric field, the forces are going to be unequal, which will cause a net torque, because one side's going to be being pushed more than the other, so it will move the particle. And it will move it. This is known as dielectrophoresis, and it's one of the primary ways the EDS is working to mitigate particles. Lastly, there's uncharged nonpolar particles. So when an uncharged particle, or a neutral particle, as you can see here, it has positive and negative surface charges distributed evenly around it. When it's exposed to an electric field, the surface charges migrate to the poles of the particle that are defined by the orientation of the electric field, as you see here. So this induces a dipole on the particle. And once this particle has poles on the left and right, as you can see in this picture, it can then experience the same force I just talked about, experiencing different forces on either side of the particle, resulting in a net force, dielectrophoresis. Sorry, Caleb. So to just sum a few things up, we have a solution to the dust problem, and that is the electrodynamic dust shield. The use of two fancy forces, which were dielectrophoretic, or dielectrophoresis, and the Lorentz force. We are capable of mitigating and purging all the different kinds of dust particles that are on the moon from the EDS, which makes it an extremely effective solution to our problem.
So this is an equation for the dielectrophoretic force, which was given to us in a paper written by Kennedy Space Center, who was again with us earlier. So there's three primary aspects to this equation. You can see the 4 pi and r cubed here. That's the geometric properties of the particle. So like a larger particle would experience a bigger force, and a smaller one would experience a smaller force. And then there's this k and epsilon of the medium. This is the dielectric properties of the particle. So as I mentioned here, how easy it is for the particle to be given a dipole like you see here. And then lastly, there's this, which is the gradient of the electric field. So what this essentially means is it's going to be larger if there's a steeper change in electric field. So that's why we utilize this square wave that I was talking about earlier, rather than just saying like, okay, this electrode is positive and negative, like a sinusoidal curve. It uses a sharp square wave, which gives it a lot steeper gradient, and this will increase the force significantly. Lastly, I want to talk about a simulation that I created, and I'm actually still working on, that simulates the potentials around the top of the EDS. So this is a bunch of math that I'm not really going to go over too much, but essentially I just take a little part of the EDS and calculate the potential from that one point to another point, and then I just sum up a ton of these little points all the way around the EDS,
just calculate all of them and add them all together, and then they're at that one point there, and I get a force from the whole EDS. I currently only have one spiral in my algorithm, which I wrote in Java here, which generates data. This data. So each one of these, this represents a layer of the EDS. Like here, these are values, kind of small, but these are a bunch of different numbers, and the colors represent those numbers, like how big they are. So these are smaller numbers, and these are larger numbers towards the center. So each of these pictures represents a layer. So this is the top layer. You can see that the forces are getting smaller as you go out. So the particles closer to the center are going to experience a larger force. And then this one is a lower section of the EDS, and then this one is very close towards the center, just 3 different planes of values above the EDS of the potential. So you can see here that on the third one, forces are getting very large close to the center of the EDS. I was unable to incorporate it into my presentation here, but the EDS has been tested by Kennedy Space Center, and it is working very well. I'm sorry I wasn't able to show any pictures or videos of that, but it's working very well.
I'm passing it off to Josiah, who's going to talk about SC.
Okay, thank you, Caleb. Hello, everybody. Hello, again, I'm Josiah Clark, and I'm the head engineering design fabrication member of the TPTechs. So I'll be talking about what the next step is. So we know that it works, and we know that it works really well here on the Earth. We know that it purges all of the different kinds of dust particles, but we don't know if it actually solves the problem of purging dust particles while it's on the moon or in the environment that it's supposed to be in to do these things. So that's why this project exists. This is the technical purpose of the MoonRIDERS project, and that purpose is to test it on the moon. So to test it on the moon, there are multiple conditions that must be met. The first is that it gets there safely. The second is that it runs properly once it gets there. And the third is that we receive some sort of data informing us of its working status. All of these are integral components of the design process and key factors in decisions regarding our primary fabrication task, which is to design and construct a frame for mounting the EDS to an optimal test conditions I will consider. I'll list a few now. We must consider weight. Weight is very important because it's very expensive to send things to space. We must consider power allocation, data processing capacity, interference caused by the electromagnetic field, solar radiation, and the structural elements of the lander, or landers, assuming an analogous design with the capacity to work with multiple teams, among other conditions that we must think about. And so, after careful consideration of all of these different conditions, and through many design iterations, we've arrived. Oh, well, there we go. Testing on the moon is a big thing. We've arrived at this construction. Oh yeah. So you can see here. Watch out, Kyle. I don't want to shoot this here. All right. These are CADs of our latest design, and this right here, I'll show you a bigger picture of it later, is actually the EDS constructed out of lead set attached to a 3D printed avionics box. The current plan is to attach this system to the foot of a lander, like that one right there, and view it from an external camera. So, after many days of debate over imaginative solutions, such as thermal testing to compare the difference in heat capacity of a dust-covered lens to a non-dust-covered lens, which is that one, or even adding in like a super sensitive pressure plate to like measure the difference in weight caused by the addition of dust. Not to mention also looking at radiation, seeing if we could count how much, if we radiated particles and had them placed on top of the EDS to count how much there was, or even running mercury beads across the surface. Yes, we got very imaginative solutions to this. All of these, we were under the impression that we were trying to design a solution that would be the most accurate. We want to know exactly how many dust particles are on there before and how many are on there afterwards. Later on, this was clarified. We just want to know that it works. And so therefore, we go with the simplest solution, which is pretty much to just look at the camera, and if you see dust particles on it before the thing runs, and if there's no dust particles on it after it runs, then it works, and we can be happy, and it's a success. So in the design challenge for weight, let's just put a component again. With every kilogram allotting to $1.2 million, it's very important to build light and to build simple and to build it in a way that we think is got the highest chance of success. And so therefore we opted for this system as well as we're in the testing process. We're thinking about also adding in a solar panel, small one underneath, that would be able to measure differences in voltage before and after the dust disappeared. And these both align with the ultimate goals of this project, which is to see if it's capable of technically removing dust from the solar panels of a rover so that it can get power if it's been covered, or to be able to remove it from a camera lens so that it can then see properly again. And beginning in this spring break, we will begin testing these systems at the Mount Head test site.
And of course, for testing, we need to have things built. And that's one of the main goals of this project, is not only to design, but to also fabricate an EDS housing. Oh, there's the...
there it is. That's what it looks like.
So that is our current model.
Here's the very interesting thing. So Iolani has this really cool, awesome 3D printer thing that works really beautifully, and they also have a water jet cutter. So we don't have either of those things. We do have a hand mill though. So we made that by hand. By the way, there's we basically took a piece of Lex sand that's a 1/4 inch thick, and we milled it, and it had to be within a 100th of a millimeter. It was I can't believe how Amy did it, but go precision eyes and very smooth movements. Just one mistake and it grinds off the wrong place and it's done. You can make a new one. We actually had to build 3 of them by hand.
We're going to build more.
And yeah, we might probably have to build a couple more. So.
Okay, so we've gone through many designs for the EDS. The first being aluminum with rubber compression material. The compression material reducing vibrations, because this would have to withstand vibrations from liftoff. It would have to house and safely keep the EDS operational so that we can test it on the moon.
We really like this design because we work with aluminum a lot. We work with aluminum in almost all of our robots, and so we thought it would be nice to continue with our expertise into this project. But unfortunately, due to the nature of the EDS, it's a high voltage system. Using metal on it is not really a good idea because there's a chance that it could, short circuit, and then $1.2 million or $600,000 going up there and it short circuits and be very sad. So we had to kind of shift designs from this.
So our second design became what it is now, which is where the EDS housing is made out of Lexan, a non-conductive material. It's 3 pieces currently, and that's what we are currently having tested by NASA and having it approved. Of course, for testing, we also looked at the camera. So this is the camera housing, which would attach to the back of the EDS and look through the EDS. And a lot of lines, and that's how everything goes together, basically. So we also looked at different cameras. We've been supplied with one, and this would be what the frame would look like with everything integrated. We've also worked on fabrication of a mock lander. We are also going to refab this lander and for testing later on. And having a physical lander has also helped with figuring out which placement we can use or where we can place the EDS, be it a footpad on the bottom of the lander somewhere on it. And so we're doing all these cool things. We're having a lot of fun with it, and we want you guys to know about it. So we've worked with graphics and media to get our work out there.
Hello everyone, I am Kyla B. Hollis. I am the head of outreach on this project. I have a background in accounting, programming, and also film, so I'm really excited to be working on this project. As you can see, this is a very interesting topic for a project, so we're all very excited, we're all very dedicated. So through our dedication, through our research, and through our design on this project, We really want to educate the community. That's our huge goal here. So that's why we created a new page on our website, kealakeherobotics.org/MoonRIDERS. So if you go on our website, this is what it looks like here. And you see we have different sections. So we have a science article section. So if you click on the science articles button, then you'll get a list of a bunch of different science articles that actually a bunch of these people have written themselves. So you can read all about it. So for example, Courtney Nelson made an article on the Apollo 9. So if you click on Apollo 9, you can see a whole research paper she wrote on this. And this is great because students like you guys in the back, you guys can use this resource. And you guys can learn all about what we're learning about, and we really love to share this knowledge. So we also have our student profiles. In our student profiles page, we have a list of all you get a profile about maybe how they joined robotics and how they really got into this project to just know a little bit more about the background of everyone. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about outreach. Now, beyond our website, we really want to teach children. We dedicated several hours to teaching children all about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Now, we do this through several things, such as coloring books, games and activities, lectures, and even a week-long Kona STEM camp, which many of you know about. Now, see, our goal. We have a goal. Our goal is to present to all elementary and middle school students in West Hawaii. And, you know, we're already one step closer to that goal, because next week we are going to Kealakehe Intermediate School on Monday and Tuesday and giving them this lecture and telling them about some stuff that we've learned. So that's really exciting, yes. Now, all of this is all just one small step in our plan into our giant leap of discovery. So let's get hashtag MoonRIDERS trending, guys. Thank you for being a part of PISCES.
We really appreciate you guys staying, like putting this together, like organizationally, and then also like building this. It's been a very interesting week for these students. So we have that robot back there, and I don't know if you saw it, we had to back it up. So that's like our biggest project outside of MoonRIDERS, and it's usually a few thousand hours of fabrication. And that deadline was on Tuesday. So they had that going on, and then this press conference and presentation. And then our science fair, that's tomorrow. And every one of these kids is in it. So they had to put together their project. And so their dedication, and it's pretty crazy. Like, it's actually literally mentally diagnosable what they've been putting out there. But, you know, I think we can see, like, what they're learning and what they're going to be able to do. And, like, particularly feel like you young kids, like, we work really hard to make sure that y'all could come. Because we want you to understand that this project will be going on when y'all take the rounds. I mean, if you're in 7th grade, this thing launches your 9th grade year, right? And so you're going to have the opportunity to participate in this. We're talking about there are future missions that are coming up. There's lots of opportunities in the Big Island for space exploration. So hopefully you can go back and tell your friends, hey, I missed school and I got some food, and then also space and stuff, right? So we're going to be presenting at all of the schools coming up over the next couple of months. And then, like, these sophomores here can start taking these not sophomores, these mostly not sophomores spots. So we're going to open it up for about 10 minutes of questions, and then all of the wonderful audience is going to help us put the library back together, and everyone past this plane is going to go to sleep. Right? So that's going to be super exciting. I know it's so. My kids, y'all can head on up here, and I will be the question, because y'all have, these mics are live, yeah? So, yep. Zach, you get to be, Tabor, you're a great podium person. Tabor, you can answer the questions. No, actually, Josiah's going to talk about this. Josiah, go to the podium. You know it's true. Okay, and then Kyla and Zach, y'all can just kind of pop up here, and then all these microphones are live. So this is your chance to ask, like, all these questions you're scared to ask, and all these other people are here. And I know that y'all have tons of questions, at least 8 minutes worth. Questions? I will just put the microphone in your face. Like, that was totally, oh, here comes questions.
I'm just wondering about that little thing that Amy was working on, that little gizmo. Why not use 3D printing for that?
Amy, can you discuss the 3D printing of that little gizmo you were working on?
So the unit, with 3D printing, we don't exactly have like a see-through material. So we wanted to, for rapid prototyping, 3D printing is really nice, but for the actual solid like Lexman piece, unless we have a really high quality 3D printer, it's kind of hard to actually make things see-through. And so I don't know if you saw in the picture, but it's basically kind of like, it's like a softer plexiglass, and so you can.
So originally we had 3D printed it, and we sent it to them as our very first version was a 3D printed version. As we're moving closer to the actual flight frame, we need to start building out of materials that are a little bit stronger than what we're capable of 3D printing out of. Iolani actually has the capacity to print from, I think it's Delrin.
Yeah. So they milled
something strong enough they print for something that's strong enough to support the strength requirements for this material, and so they were actually able to 3D print their box and send it.
Their 3D printer cost 1,000 times the cost of the 3D printer. So that's the difference. We're poor, basically.
Justin, can you access like NASA's technology or hardware type of stuff?
Yeah, we work with them all the time, like the EDS that they're installing. So the way Amy made this frame was she and Chris drilled holes, right? And then they started, and then they cut out the parts of the holes, and she took pieces of glass and cut the edges to get it perfect, right? So like that's like our kind of like level, and then like NASA just like make it in a second, like.
We are very excited though. We just got a really cool new machine. We haven't gotten working yet. Our brand new CNC mill.
Yeah.
Hopefully has the capacity to do something. However, we actually had a member of our community attempt to use one of these, and it required a higher level of precision than the machine could push out.
Professional machinist, yeah. So like NASA is actually going to be installing all the electronics. So that little iPhone case that Mr. Murakami was referring to, the coating on, they told us the contract for the coating on that piece of glass is $10,000. Like not the glass, not the wires, nothing. It's $10,000 for the coating. So like we're not doing that coating. NASA is doing that coating, and they'll be installing it into our frame. So we definitely are leveraging, as Rob talked about, the different partner organizations in setting up where each one has their own technical capacity and sending it off. Iolani helped us with a 3D print of an outer shell that we sent and incorporated in with ours. PISCES was running the logistics and working with us on the engineering drives. It was sent up to Kennedy, and they actually installed the electronics like today, and they'll be sending that back to us. So we are leveraging those capacities. However, I mean, if we just want a computer to just like press the button and do it, like that's like different. Like Amy gets to cut with glass, and isn't this the learning process that we want? Just sitting there whittling away at things that machines can do better. It's just where our fabrication abilities are right now.
Build character.
That's character is a word for cancer. Other questions? Other questions? People have questions, I believe.
We'll go home.
Great. Bruce Smith, West Hawaii DOE office.
Just, I know that some of you have a long-term interest in science. Josiah, I think you were building these when Legos when you were 2 or something like that. But I'm just curious about the rest of you that have gotten involved in this. Is it something you've been passionate about, or was there a point in time in your education that you got sparked about it, that this shifted for you? And I'm asking this mostly for the younger kids here who may be sitting here going, I'm not yet into science that much. So anybody feel brave about sharing that's always been you or something that's changed? I think they'd love to hear that.
Yeah, let's go down the line. We'll start with Tabor.
I'll start this one. So from a young age, I knew I wasn't good at art. So that was a profession. Like if I tried to draw a line, It's actually perfect for Avalo. Avalo turns into like an octagon, I don't know. So then I thought I was good at math. I'm Miss Weiss, my math teacher. Math isn't always my strong point. So I mean, I just try new things. History, no. So I was like, well, one core subject left. It's not going to be English. Let's try science. Science worked
I just
out.
put them in a block of
So that's kind of how
power.
it works with responsive elimination.
Then when anybody trip, and shut everything down in the middle of everything.
Okay. So, I'm not really sure when I got into science. It's just, growing up, I knew I really, really liked math. And I got to a point where I loved math so much, I do it for fun. And then I met science, and I was like, holy, you're awesome. 'Cause I just took my first AP class this year, and it was just science, 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 and I'm kind of in love. So, I don't know. There's something special about learning and like fulfilling your curiosity. Because I feel like I want to know everything, but not everything about like science. So I really enjoyed doing that with this project. I'm going to hand it over to Kyla.
Hello. So I actually didn't start I didn't start off liking math or science either. I actually hated math. I had trouble with it and I didn't really like it. But my freshman year, I was actually in Mr. Brown and Mr. Bongiorno's math class, and they actually really inspired me to like math. They taught me that it could be fun and that there's a lot of real-life implications to it, and it was just fun. And actually, Amy got me into robotics. I was pretty good friends with Amy, and she convinced me to come to one of the robotics open houses. And so I showed up, and they had a bunch of different booths, and it really fascinated me, I think mostly because I didn't know how to do it. I was like, wait, how are you guys doing this? Like programming, for instance, is like what I first started off as. I was like, what is this wizardry? Do any of you guys know how electronics work? Like, I was like, whoa, it was just like pure magic to me, and I guess I really just wanted to discover what was behind all of that.
So, does anyone know about the Connects building set? Any of the adults, kids? That was like how I started. It's like my favorite thing as a kid. I had those and wooden blocks, and I would create ramps for small cars, and I would have lots of fun. I always loved building things, especially I've always been interested in robotics. Like, I'm the kind of person who's like sitting at a carnival and you see a dump tank, and I'm like, so you throw the ball, it hits this, rotates on this lever, releases this latch, and dunk the person. You're like, cool, that's so cool. And I've just always loved figuring things out, building things. Freshman year, VEX, I've loved that. FRC this year has been great. I've just always kind of liked building, science, math. Yeah.
So very similar to Zach, I've kind of always been interested. I've liked math. It's my favorite subject from like forever ago. And as like a kid, I would always like I got a toolkit for Christmas, and I took the training wheels off my bike, and then I went and crashed, and I learned how to do that by myself. Well, it doesn't have anything to do with engineering, but I took my training wheels off.
Can we talk about your crash last year, Caleb? Do we have a picture of that? Can we?
If you really want a picture, we can make that happen.
Okay, I'm gonna make that happen by the end of this presentation.
Okay. Facebook. Anyway, I've also like when I was littler, I took apart lots of like electrical components, like a TV.
Littler?
Littler. Yes. Not as well. I'm into engineering, not talking. So I took apart like a TV. I was like just cutting it apart with like scissors and a hammer. And like there's capacitors and stuff in TVs. So I like electrocuted myself. But I had a great time, and I just always like to take things apart. So I've just always been really interested in this kind of stuff. And then I came to robotics. My dad just brought me there. Mr. Brown was way too busy to deal with me. I was kind of just thrown into the middle of it, and nobody could pay any attention because they were way too busy. So there was like one or two people that were really nice to me, but it was really just a place where everything that was going on around me was very interesting, and it was just awesome altogether.
So for me, I always liked math and science. I went to like Kealakehe, and I had lots of science teachers who would like do lots of hands-on things and would show us lots of experiments, and that was always fun. I went to middle school, and so when I was in middle school, we had this weird program. It was called GT Science, and so your elementary school teacher would recommend you for a special class. It was like gifted and talented, and we would always do this. It was like required science fair, and that part wasn't as great, but the teacher kind of pulled me into robotics. So I started robotics in middle school. We didn't really have a robotics team when I was at Hololoa. And I kind of kept doing robotics and science fair and all these kinds of crazy math things. And so I just kept doing robotics and kept doing robotics, and I'm still in robotics and I'm still doing robotics. So it never ends. And I really enjoy it, and we learn lots of things, and I'm glad I joined robotics in middle school.
Okay, so I had one Lego brick, I found another Lego brick, and I found you put them on top of each other, and just the world opened up. And then I realized I could just create really anything I wanted to out of what I had my little starter kit of Lego bricks. And I could deconstruct them, break them back down into their components, and make something else completely different. So I've kind of always taken that fascination with just, it's a big thing constructed of smaller pieces. And then as I kind of journeyed on through school and through life, I also kind of took interest in art, and I've kind of incorporated that into thinking where art isn't separated from science. Science's natural color is not gray. There's a rainbow of science. So I kind of started viewing that whatever I do, I can make it my art. It's my art. It's what I make beautiful. And as I look at the complexities of a gear ratio or a gigantic machine, the less I understand it, the more beautiful it looks. But then I have a way of understanding it. And so I can delve deeper into making these incredibly complex, beautiful machines, mechanics of my own through this math. And like other, I don't know, things I've learned through the robotics program, but
I know a few things can top that. Any more questions? Okay, cool. Okay, yes, question. You can probably do. Okay, that sounds good.
For the EDS, what is its rate for your final project?
Well, because of like the housing that it's in, it kind of has a little like edge around it. I don't know. I don't think we can bring a picture right now, but it's kind of limited to just what's exposed in that. So it's just going to push it off to the side. So at the moment, it's mostly useful for just like a camera lens, like you saw. But because of the housing, it can't really push things outside of the housing. But I'm sure that as things progress, it'll just expand and expand until we're not ever thinking about dust really ever again. But right now, it's very limited just on the little glass piece itself.
Yes, these first two tests involve clearing off optics as well as increasing efficiency of solar PV by not blocking as much light. But the same lab, the same work is looking at fibers that weave in EDS. And so you can imagine it's woven into your suit. And so as the dust is being attracted, as Courtney was explaining, then you just kind of like press your little button. It's like dust away, right? And it'll literally feel like you're doing a reverse magnet upon the dust, and it just will like pop off and get off far enough that you're all, in the words of one Zach Kaneshiro, Gucci. All Gucci. Okay. Any other pressing dying questions? Oh, yes, absolutely.
When are you coming to Kealakehe Elementary?
When are we coming to Kealakehe Elementary? You know what? We're going to talk to you guys about that. But sometime this afternoon. And you're going to bring us pizza, right? And then we'll come up. Awesome. So we have the intermediate Monday and Tuesday, and then a little, sorry, yeah. That's in March 11th. I think we have a little stuff. But we'll get to all your schools, we promise, with a much more kid-friendly version of this presentation. We launch balloons. For real. Yeah, see, she said yes.
Now that we're on the topic of our youth, especially those that are sitting here, I want to ask if you can really, really briefly give our youth, even your sophomores and juniors that are coming up in your freshmen, one piece of advice that'll keep them going on this track. What would it be?
Speech. Speech. No, Chris Tabor, no. No. No.
So, before that, I found these glasses.
The piece of advice is if you lost your glasses, please help. Look, guys, it's Mr. Roberto Castro, a teacher at our school, lost his glasses. Mr. Roberto Castro.
One piece of advice there, to stick with it. Well, it's kind of hard for me to give, because like I've always really enjoyed this kind of stuff. I've always found it to be very magical. So I think I would advise all of the youth to just not be afraid of it. You know, it's really fun once you actually begin to see how much magic is in this stuff. Like, you can do so many amazing things if you want to. Engineering is the medium of endless imagination. You can do whatever you want. It was the motto of the very first robotics set I've ever gotten. It was, sky's the limit. And of course that's true because it's engineering. You can do whatever you want. And as long as you see that, you can have passion for what you're doing. And so I'd encourage all of you to just not be afraid, to just take that chance, to step out and to do these things and to see how amazing it actually is. So that would be my advice.
It's funny that he says stick with it, because that's exactly what I was thinking. Sometimes it's tough when you're here at 2 o'clock in the morning welding and getting sunburns from a welder while it's dark outside. So yeah, it's a lot of hard work, but seeing our robot back there flashing, even though we're not allowed to touch it because it's not competition yet, it's just seeing it back there, and even if it's not moving, it's just so amazing to see that we've actually made that, and that it's just so gratifying.
I guess I'll go again. So first, piece of advice, don't listen to Ben. He's wrong. 100% incorrect.
I would disagree with you, Chris.
Alright, don't listen to Josiah either. Aside from that, I'd stick along the same lines as them. Mine is more, don't be afraid to try new things. Like, I feel really intimidated when I'm up here, like with Caleb or Josiah, and they sound all intellectual, and I'm like making sound effects like, rockets, right? But don't underestimate your own intelligence and just go for it. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to try new things because you think you're gonna fail. If you don't take the chance, you're not gonna succeed. You're gonna be, you know, just sad. And you'll be like, oh no, something, I don't know, I didn't ask you out to prom, or I don't know, they dropped down the toilet seat now. whatever it is, just don't be afraid to try new things, and if it fails, at least you learned, right? If it succeeds, then great. You're awesome. Good job. There you go.
So I recently watched this really cool, or I read this really cool article by Neil deGrasse Tyson, and a lot of the speech that I gave earlier actually originated from what he talked about. And one of the things that he was talking about was the stimulation of STEM in education and how generally, like the argument that I saw most often was, if you go into a classroom and you ask a whole bunch of students if they want to design a new airfoil that's 20% more efficient than the one their parents had created, most students are not going to be super pumped about that. But if you go in and you'd be like, who wants to design something that's going to go to the moon and to Mars and it's going to like do some crazy things like that, then you get a lot of interest. And so it's all about actually the inspiration of all of the youth of our community and of the world resides in all of these really big projects. It's enabling them to see how amazing it is. And so I think I would encourage the continued growth of project-based learning, as I had stated in my speech, for not only education, but for humanitarian purposes and the world, because we're in a world that's kind of suffering because of pollution and stuff. But we can fix that by engineering solutions. And so I would encourage all of everybody to just stick with it.
It's up to you guys. We're graduating, we're going off, except for Courtney. But it's you guys. We may have laid the foundation. Thank you. And Caleb.
I keep forgetting you're not singing with us.
But it's you guys who are going to continue this on. You guys are going to make the difference.
Okay, I should probably state my advice pretty quickly. My advice would be to be passionate. You gotta find your niche. You gotta find the thing that you'll stay up 3 nights in a row, that you'll stay up till 4 a.m. Googling, that you'll do your own experiments with. Just find what you love and do what you love. And be curious. And when you're curious, don't say, okay, it must work. I guess that's okay. How does it work? What made that? Why is that way? Why is that dust up in the air? That makes no sense. Figure it out if you're passionate. And so find your passion, whatever it may be, and then don't give up on your curiosity. Okay.
So continuing a little bit about what Courtney's saying on finding your passion. Now, it might seem like we're pressuring you guys to be like, find your passion, find it right now. But, it is, once you find it, you'll know. And it can be a little bit of a process. You can find it now, you can find it when you're in college. It might take a while. But my advice to you is don't leave any closed doors. So if you're even the slightest bit interested in something, try to go for it and try it out. You never know if you'll love it or not, and learn to ask questions. That's a huge thing. Asking questions is great. In middle school I was an AVID, and they actually taught us how to ask questions about everything. You had to if you have to randomly formulate a question, that's just really good thing to know how to do in general. Yeah.
Okay, with that, it's about that time. So, wait, Caleb, do you have something to say? Is that what you... Okay, cool. So, again, if you're beyond this plane, right, then we're going to go to sleep, and then there's nothing else that just happened as well. Art Susan, who's our complex area superintendent, was instrumental in helping our high school secure this project. And he was unfortunately off island tonight to join us, but Bruce Smith has some remarks on his behalf, and then we're going to close it up. There's still a little bit more food and lots of cleaning.
Thank you so much, Justin. Mr. Souza is in a conference on the mainland, learning more about us here, and he brings his deepest appreciation to the school and to the students, and just to say how very proud we are of you and what you're showing about the abilities in public education. I have my own analogy that public education is kind of like a Christmas tree. And under the tree is lots and lots of presents. But the only way that you get to use the presents and benefit is open the present and use it. So this program is one that's available. I think that you can get the best education in the state at this high school. I really do. I think that every opportunity exists here. And there are kids who come here and that's not what their experience is. But it's not because it's not here. One of Art's favorite things is to talk about how we always need to have hope. And if you leave here today and don't have incredible hope about public education, you were in a different meeting than I was in. So thank you so much for being here, and so much to you guys for your stuff.
Yeah, we're done. So. Okay. Oh wait, my kids. All of you are taking your team pictures today because we're all in our shirts. Okay. So let's set up a little thing, maybe with the banner and the lander. You sit on the lander or something like that. Just figure it out. All take your pictures. You all go to bed. Yeah. Stop broadcast.